I'm Eric Wetterling, and I'm here with Michael Spreadborough and Kas De Luca of Novo Resources. This will be the first time I do one of these interviews, at least with Novo. And unfortunately, my video is not showing up, but I hope people survive anyway. So first of all, thanks for coming here. And I I guess we could. Where do you want to start, guys?
Well, I think, Eric, if we just do a bit of a snapshot of where Novo is, early November 2022. Financially, we are very strong. We have about 65 million Canadian in the bank, which is really good. And we have around about 20 million Canadian in investments. So we remain financially strong, which is good. As we talk through, you'll see that funds are sufficient to support the aggressive exploration program that we plan to do. So financially, we're in a good position. Our real focus at the moment is to support Kas and the exploration team on exploration. We see that as the best opportunity to have shareholder value and re-rating of the stock. We'll come to Beatons Creek in a sec. And definitely, Kas's team have had a very short 12 months to really re-pivot, looking at non-conglomerate targets, and has had great success, So we've got 2 drill rigs at the moment doing greenfields, 1 nickel, 1 gold. Next week we'll have 2 drill rigs in a gold and 1 rig in nickel. So we're very aggressive with our exploration programs on our key priorities, and that's the value and the future of Novo in the short term. Obviously, Beatons Creek was, a milestone to bring that on board, and a lot of work was done to make Beatons Creek come on board. Unfortunately, the grade that everyone anticipated just hasn't been delivered. We understand that very well now. We know that to have confidence in the grade delivery, we need to do closely spaced drilling, and that gives us confidence with the grade, and then that allows us to do better mine planning. We also have a better overview of mining costs. The costs previously anticipated in the PEA were much lower than what was actually achieved. And without a doubt, everyone that's been to the site, and experts and independent people, have seen that the geological and the mining work has been done extremely well. So we know a good job was done in the oxide, but unfortunately the economics weren't there. Having said that, we're now in a hiatus. We've taken the processing plant down. We'll be in care and maintenance for an indefinite period. We need to do more work on Beatons Creek to make it economic. I don't apologise for that. We know after 6 months, 7 months of drilling that Beatons Creek's still not in a position that can make money going forwards. We're doing more drilling. We'll do more optimisation. The mining costs, and we can talk about this a bit further, Eric, in Western Australia are extremely high at the moment, very inflationary period. So, mining costs are not good. The environmental approvals for Beatons Creek are very cost penalty to us. So the best thing for shareholders is for us to just take a bit of hiatus, really think about how we move forwards with Beatons Creek and Mosquito Creek so we add shareholder value rather than destroy it. So that's kind of where we are. Good opportunity exploration in the short term. Let's see if we can unlock value from the Nullagine Gold Project, Beatons Creek and Mosquito Creek going forwards.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that. That was my initial, instinct reading the news release, that might as well be put on care and maintenance and go back to, more, I don't know, lower hanging fruit, let's say. You're still one of the most cashed up juniors in the entire space. And like you said, with this tough environment in Western Australia now with labor, I've seen quite a few mines shut down and go on care and maintenance, and they refer to mining costs, cost inflation. So it's not unique to Novo. So in my opinion, it's like, why not just try to, weather the storm, let's say, and try to find something more conventional in the meantime. And would you like to touch on the fact, just, how important or how valuable it probably is to have a fully built mill? I'm just assuming here that it probably would cost some 200 to 300 million, given the cost inflation today, to rebuild that. And that obviously wasn't even built first time around for the Beatons Creek deposit. So it's well suited for more conventional targets, I would guess, right?
Yeah, so look, the Golden Eagle processing plant is a good asset. If you recall, when Novo purchased from Millennium, there was a refurbishment period, and that definitely put the plant in good stead. The plant probably has a replacement value today of about 120 odd million, but don't forget there's a power station, offices, warehouses, a lab, and a large accommodation. So your estimate of around about 200 million replacement new capital cost is probably right. So, in terms of Nullagine, yes, we are in care and maintenance. Our focus at the moment is on a plan that will run between now and the middle of next year, both on Beatons Creek, both Mosquito Creek, pulling apart all the resources that we have, Beatons Creek Fresh, Mosquito Creek Oxide, Mosquito Creek Sulphide, and definitely look for opportunities to provide mill feed. And we're also casting the net out, so 150, 200 kilometres around that plant. Because as you said, Eric, it's a fantastic asset. We're not the only explorer in the area. Are there other opportunities? So we'll keep looking at that. And look, we'll do more announcements later in the year, but we are definitely looking at opportunities to use some of those infrastructure for other mining companies in the area that might help us subsidise the costs. But I think what I'd like to do here is, without notice, just throw to Kaz and get Kaz to talk a bit about the new work that she's doing on Mosquito Creek to look at those opportunities to unlock Nullagine Gold Project.
Sounds good.
Sure thing. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Right. Well, yeah, we've, I guess, the history of Millennium at Mosquito Creek and Millennium in the Nullagine district. Golden Eagle, the actual mineralisation, the ore body at Golden Eagle is first rate. But I think that is, at the moment, it looks like it's a standalone really in the district. So really, Millennium just went down the path of, I guess, low-hanging fruit, as you said before, and anything that stuck out of the ground or there was an obvious soil anomaly over was drilled, and 40 odd of those turned into little pits. But to be honest, we don't really want to reinvent that wheel and go down the path of hand to mouth, trying to do grade control by exploration, as it were, with just the rig in front of you in terms of trying to find more oxide ore. So we think it's time for a step change in the district. We've worked, the people that are working with me, the exploration team, we've worked throughout different provinces. We've done a lot of, we've got a lot of experience looking for mineralization undercover is the easiest way to think of it, I think. But certainly to pull apart the basin and to look for different styles of mineralization. So we've got more tenure rather than just the Millennium tenure. So we've actually cobbled on all of the Novo tenure in the district around Beatons Creek, as well as the Creasy joint venture tenements that we took on. So there's new tenements, there's new discoveries. So we already found gold in a dolerite, which is really unusual. No one's ever really found or even searched for gold in dolerite in the basin before. And we're looking at new techniques. So Millennium just started really doing both refractory mineralization work and also looking for larger indications of larger ore bodies undercover. They just started too late. They did have some time as they were in sort of their own care and maintenance period. And there's a lot of data that was put together that we've now built upon. We've just finished a large gravity survey right across the Mosquito Creek, Middle Creek fault, Middle Creek trend, and also in part the Blue Spec trend. We've got all of the high resolution aeromags and the hyperspectral work, so that the basin analysis is really ready to go. I mean, there's some really immediate targets where some of these mineralized trend undercover, they don't outcrop. And there's really nothing in my mind that says there won't be another discovery to be made undercover. And it really, I mean, I don't think it's deep cover. I don't think it's tens to hundreds of meters. I think it might be 10 to 20 to 30 meters. So we've got plans to do Aircore drilling. We're targeting at the moment. We'll do a lot of work over the wet season, and we're targeting for drilling next year. So there'll either be Aircore drilling on these sorts of targets where they are undercover, or some direct RC targeting. We've already stepped out in the Elsie district and a bit further afield from Beatons Creek itself, looking for additional conglomerate resources at targets like Skyfall. We've just got, it was really just pulling apart how many targets we've got, prioritizing them, and we're planning to do work on them early next year. So we've done a fair amount of work thus far, but it's time now to actually look at things in a little bit of a different light, and you know, in the hope to find 100,000 ounce plus deposits ready to merge with the Beatons Creek mineralization.
So Eric, I'd say that the
Right.
key message is, you know, people shouldn't be just, you know, it's unfortunate we've had to shut down Beatons Creek, but we haven't given up. We're still looking at opportunities to unlock that Great Belt, and definitely the processing plant and the infrastructure is a core asset that would allow us to bring on, as Kaz said, 100,000 ounce opportunities, depending on how the work goes in the next 6 months. So that's kind of one of our key focuses that we have. As I said, really the key opportunity for shareholders with Novo at the moment is the great potential we have on the rest of our exploration tenements.
Right. I mean, when I read through the presentation, for example, I mean, there's so many targets that it's very hard to visualize, you know, what, you know, the priorities, let's say, because you have to look at a few paragraphs at each page, and then you have to keep them all in your mind at the same time. But it sounds, when I listen to you, Kas, that, I mean, you're in that phase where you're basically doing, you know, prioritizing, you're going through everything. So you don't need to do what, let's say, Millennium did, just, you know, drill whatever, you know, as soon as you find something. But you're actually, because, I mean, it is one of the largest land packages of energy, I would say. And there's, I mean, just looking at some of the prospects around Mosquito Creek, I mean, when I look at the Western Australia's geological mapping tool, I mean, there's, you know, prospects all over the place. So, I mean, that's got to be a lot to sift through, and obviously with Millennium's work, etc. So that's why I guess it's like, I would really like to see, let's say, a summation of like the most high priority targets, but it sounds like that is not yet completely done, that is what you're doing right now with geophysics and all that.
Yeah, Eric, it's a good question. So I'm going to start, then I'm going to get Kaz to fill in. So if you move outside of Nullagine and Mosquito Creek, the rest of the tenure that makes up somewhere close to 8,000 square kilometres if you take Mosquito Creek out, it's really divided into three areas. On the eastern side, East Pilbara, very immature. Novo has not done a lot of work other than focus on conglomerates. The team are now busy doing, you know, reconnaissance work that will build that picture up. So the eastern Pilbara area around Marble Bar has got so much opportunities. You know, old timers and prospectors and small shafts everywhere. Great opportunity, but we haven't put modern exploration techniques in there. On the West Pilbara is a little bit different. It's kind of semi-mature. We're looking at the moment prioritising nickel targets, which is a bit weird given we're really gold focused, but that's driven by neurology. You know, if people see our releases, Purdy's North is wedged between Azura, which has found some great nickel projects, and south of us is kind of Artemis, which has got a copper gold. So we like that as a prioritisation to get in there and early and see what value. But to us, and I'll get Kaz to talk about this, the real jewel in the crown for us is the edge in the district. Most of our investors know Egina as part of Egina swales, looking for nuggets. But below that system is orogenic gold prospects. And that's where our key priority target is at the moment. We did a release on that last week. This has the potential to really drive Novo. So I'm going to get Kas to talk a little about Becher, which is the target they're on now. Why have we prioritised it, Eric? The geology is fantastic. Just north of us is the big Hemi project run by De Grey, ASX listed company, 1.3 billion market cap, 10 million ounces in resource. So that's why we're at Becher. We just like the ground. Yeah. Kas, tell us more.
Okay, so I don't know if you recall, Eric, but the very northernmost tenure of what we used to call just the Egina district sits it actually abuts the De Grey ground to the north in the Withnell, they call it the Withnell mining area.
Right.
Part of the structure through there are east-west trending Mallina and Tabba shear zones, and we know they're fertile. There's a million ounces plus over there. Some of which has already been mined, some of which is still in the Mallina gold project, I think they call it. That's the De Grey's gold project, 10 million ounce resource. Outboard of that, as the shear zone heads out to the east and then to the northeast, sits Hemi with the intrusives sitting around there, the sanucatoids as we're calling them now. That corridor actually trends all the way back through south of Withnell and straight through our northernmost tenure, and we call it Becher. Becher itself is a really unusual epithermal vein system that we're probably going to be testing with some RC drilling shortly. Huge arsenic anomaly sitting in the soils, but to be honest, most of the surface material there is windblown sand, and it's really not conducive to doing that type of soil sampling exploration for different anomaly. So we decided early on in the piece that we would Aircore drill underneath the cover to get a better idea of what's there. I mean, basically trying to find a mineralization blanket that we can then follow up with deeper drilling methods like RC and diamond drilling. So in the first instance, and might I say very easily, we've designed around a 30,000 meter Aircore program that is currently underway. We've drilled over 16,000 meters of it at the moment. We have got intrusive targets, aka the sanucatoids. We do have structural targets. We know there are, mafic and ultramafic intrusions, similar to the Andover in a sense. So we're doing broad-spaced Aircore at 640 meter lines at the moment, looking for a kilometer large alteration zone. There's no shortage of drilling to be done here. We'll continue next year. We've just completed 2 heritage surveys, which give us access to over 100 line kilometers of area to be able to test with drilling. And already, I know people probably look at the release and think, 20 meters at 0.67, that doesn't sound like much. But in Aircore, as a first pass, that's the first time anyone's drilled there, I think it's pretty significant myself. So that whole zone on the southern side of the Irvine Shear, it comes straight back into that large arsenic anomaly I was talking about, the epithermal veins. Straight away, that's going to be an area of focus that we're going to be follow up drilling with RC next week, actually. Yeah. So we like that area. We know it's a fertile corridor.
Yeah, you'll continually hear news stories for the next 3 to 4 months, early into next year, on our drilling at Becher. So we're very excited by it. That whole Egina district is #1 priority exploration for us.
So if I understand correctly, I mean, to summarize, Becher is the obvious top priority right now. I mean, simply due to the many anomalies and now the Aircore results, but it also sounds then that there's actually many different types of deposits that could be found there. So if you look at actual soil anomalies, it's not just sanucatoids or epithermal, that they might be explained by various types of deposit, I assume. And on the Aircore drilling, I mean, I know Quinton said that it's like almost soil sampling. Is that because you're not really? I mean, you're not into the actual ore body. It's just chopped up pieces of what would include some parts of an ore body, kind of like a soil sample, because that's obviously not. I mean, you're not sampling the actual vein, etc. You're sampling fragments of a vein. So it tells you that there's something nearby that is shedding gold into these now shallow covers, let's say. Is that a fair assessment?
That's pretty good. But it doesn't have to be physically gold shedding, it's chemical as well. So the dispersion halos can actually be quite large. And yeah, there's no other way of doing this, Eric, than, the cover, it's sandy, it's ephemeral, the sand moves around, the gold anomalism in the chemistry doesn't stay to be useful in soil sampling, so we have to drill. That's really the only way to test
Eric,
this.
we're not talking about a small envelope here. The first pass kind of zone that we're looking for, I think, is 8 kilometers long and about 2 to 3 kilometers wide. We're actually doing Aircore at 600 meter centers. So you're right, we're using Aircore to be the pathfinder. The first pass, because it's pretty cheap, we can do it quickly. And now from those early results, the exploration team are going to use from next week RC drilling, focusing on particular areas, and they'll drill deeper holes into hopefully bedrock. So it's an important tool, and as Kas said, we won't necessarily see these good results everywhere over the 8 kilometers, but to see it in one area really lights everything up to go looking for something deeper.
Right. I mean, that makes total sense to me. Cast a wide net, and it's pretty cheap to do. And we know that the Gray used that method very successfully, obviously. That's and right. If we just zoom out a bit, I mean, I've looked at geological maps and geophysics maps many times over, the Mallina Basin, for example. I mean, I know the Mallina Basin runs way past Becher area to the southwest, I guess it is. I mean, where you picked up more creasy land, for example, in the southern parts of the Egina project. I mean, how much of that would you say is like fertile for these sanuctoids, etc.? Is this the Hemma area? Is that the sole area where you believe these can be found, or is the whole Mallina Basin in play where you have some shearing, etc.?
Well, I think you've just answered your own question, really. These are structurally complex corridors, and where there is space and where these intrusions are at depth, there's opportunity to come up these structures and actually, bring the gold fluids with them. I mean, geologists are going to argue about where the gold actually came from forever, but the facts for the pragmatic exploration geologists are this entire corridor that goes right from Becher all the way through to other prospects that we have, all the way down to our Nullagine North project, which is 70 kilometers to the south. The whole zone is fertile. I'm not saying it's an economic, it's not going to be mined every meter of it, but certainly the opportunity to find more and different types of deposits, depending on what geology is actually there, is outstanding, I think. I think that's by far our first priority area.
In Australia that would have the Egina district, which is probably about 2,000 square kilometers, Kas, something like that.
Yeah.
There'd be very few companies in Australia that would not want to have that ground. It is prime geological real estate, and so kind of our plan going forwards is we'll probably have 2 rigs continuously in the Egina district all the way through next year.
Right. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And what you said, Kas, I mean, I can see, I'm not totally up to date right now what the market cap is, but when I know, how much cash you have, and then you have equities in E3, for example. So I would think that, like you said, a lot of companies would be very happy to have that, just the Egina project alone. I mean, that's huge, first of all. But with that closeology to Hemma, so I mean, in a outright sale or whatever, I think that alone is worth more than the current, let's say, enterprise value of Novo.
Yes.
which is, I think, a testament to how, I mean, narrative-driven this market is. And right now, because in my opinion, right now with the sentiment so bad in the entire space, it's like good news gets discounted by 10%. Bad news gets discounted by 110%. So it's like everybody focuses on risks, etc., etc. But when I look at it, like no, right now, given the cash balance, etc., and all the targets, I mean, it's like a land play where you're not really paying anything for the exploration potential. I mean, what kind of a chance of percent of chance of success is priced in for the whole Becher area? If I look at again the enterprise value, maybe 1% possibility of finding another Hemi. Is that fair? I wouldn't say that's fair given the knowledge,
I think it's Eric, you did a pretty good summary. I think easiest story to say is at the moment, whole range of reasons. It's been a disappointment over Beatons Creek, but if you just look at the exploration package and alone, we're undervalued against our peers. And I would say we're even undervalued in terms of the quality of the portfolio, the results that we've already seen. And I've got to say this, we're undervalued given the quality of the exploration team that we've got. We've got people who've worked all around the world in gold who are part of Novo, and they love working for us. So I think all of those elements come together to really, flesh out that Novo's got a good future going into 2023.
And then I mean, there's go ahead, Kas.
I was just going to say your question about Sanukatoids was really interesting, because when I was very young and working in the Yilgarn in the late 80s, early 90s, Sanukatoids were a big thing back then as well in the Yilgarn. So it's not like this is a new thing. Geologists that have worked in Archean terrains before and Proterozoic terrains know about these things. It used to be, if you have a Sanukatoid and a lamprifier close in your district, they're mantle tapping things. They're big, deep structures. They come up structures, and they're really good indicators that you're in a fertile system.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I didn't know that, and I do know. I mean, just some common sense. I know there's conglomerate gold in every corner of the Fortescue Basin, for example. So I mean, that gold obviously came from somewhere, even though, like you said, we can debate forever how that got there or what the source actually was. But I mean, that's still evidence of whatever happened in the Pilbara was very widespread. And because I know down in Bellary Dome, for example, I mean, there's conglomerates there. I don't remember the company that found it, but it's like every company, when the conglomerate rush was in full motion, almost every company was able to find gold in the Fortescue Basin. So I'm like, it doesn't, you don't need to be a brain surgeon to guess that, hey, I mean, I don't think the gold in the southwestern part came from the Hemi deposit, for example. So there must be something, even though we don't know, like you said, if it's economic, is it just many small deposits, etc. But at least we now know that there is something like a Hemi complex. So it's not, we have proof of concept that there can be big deposits here. And I remember when I talked to, I think, Mark Creasy, when he said that the Pilbara is actually very underexplored. So even though there's a lot of iron and stuff, and the iron companies has been there for a long time, it's like now, for example, De Grey is finding that, and you found in dolomite for the first time in the Mosquito Creek. So I mean, to me, that's just a sign that even though it looks like Western Australia has been completely scraped, just by how it looks, that area, all these areas would have been explored. But I mean, a lot of exploration is like old timer stuff. I mean, that just followed some vein here and
prospecting.
There. Yeah, and Eric, Ray is an amazing example. 2.5 years ago, they had a very little value, and with some good geology work, they're now worth 1.3 billion. So you're right, the Pilbara is underexplored. We're probably the most advanced group with the most advanced techniques having a good look. So I've just noticed that Zoom's going to kick us out in about 4 minutes. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, is there anything I don't know, wrap up with? I mean, there's so many additional targets. I mean, Talga, the Victorian projects. I mean, you're way oversaturated with targets.
Yeah, definitely. You'll see an update on the Victorian Malmesbury thing in the next couple of weeks. You mentioned Bellary Dome. You'll be excited by this. We've just cleared heritage there. So very early next year, we'll finally get on Bellary Dome, and Ian Groves, the manager down there, and Kaz have already got targets ready to go. So that's pretty special as well. So we're really pleased that in a short period of time, Kaz and the team have really started to do justice to the tenements. So people should really look out at these releases. And we'll probably, we're debating it. Probably early February, we'll do a deep dive exploration webinar. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds really good. I mean, I personally find the geological aspect, etc., very fascinating. So, I mean, thanks so much for your time today, guys. I know it's late over in Australia, so thanks for staying up and working as long as you have today.
Absolute pleasure at any time.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great to
See
talk
you guys
again.
later.
Good night,
Thank
Kaz.
you.
Same.
Good night.
Bye-bye.